Hello all, Fireball here, and welcome to another episode of the Fireball Archives. So today we're delving into the archives for the Sun Elf. So the Elven translation for the Sun Elf is Tel Quasir. They are of medium size. They are a medium-sized humanoid. Obviously, they're an elf. Their homelands tend to be Everiska, Evermeet, Mithranor, Northwest Faerun, and the Western Heartlands. The skin colors tend to be bronze. The hair colors can be black, copper, golden blonde, and red. Eye colors tend to be black, copper, gold, green, hazel, or silver with a liquid appearance. And distinctions are basically their traits are conservative, frail, deliberate, and proud. So the Sun Elves, also sometimes known as the Gold Elves, sometimes as High Elves, like the Moon Elves used to be known as High Elves. They're often known as High Elves due to their stereotypically elitist ways. If you think of the Moon Elves as the party animals, the Sun Elves would be like, the bullies, or not the bullies, but like over proud, kids, basically like an over proud or arrogant. They're arrogant. They're the arrogant elves. Basically, the elitist ways in Tel Quasir, in their own language, were a subrace of high elves, historically rare in Faerun due to the retreat to Evermeet, which was also known just as the retreat, in which the majority abandoned the continent of Evermeet, abandoned the continent for Evermeet. During the era of upheaval, they began returning to the mainland. They are haughty and arrogant. Sun Elves typically felt themselves superior to most other races, including the other Tel Quasir or other elves. So, the description is, like all of the Tel Quasir, the Sun Elves were close to the height of humans, but with notable differences. Sun Elves have bronze copper skin and hair, most often of copper, golden blonde, and black, with red more uncommon but not unheard of. Sun Elves typically had your typical green elven eyes, although golden ones were also common, often with a liquid appearance though. And silver, black, hazel, or copper hues have also been heard of within the Sun Elves. Like the Moon Elves, male Sun Elves were typically taller and heavier than females, sometimes by as much as 5 inches or 20 pounds. Sun Elves had a reputation of being stronger but far less durable than other elves. This was not necessarily the case for all the Sun Elves, though. Sun Elves, as for their personality, were firmly on the belief that they stood as the sole protectors and inheritors of Corellan's legacy in the Prime material plane. They were patient and deliberate in most of what they did. They demonstrated an orderly nature uncommon to most elves, preferring to master a skill before applying it rather than learning as they go. Rushing was out of the nature of the Sun Elves. They were less versatile than most races, but they had a mastery of whatever they applied themselves to. The only true exception was martial combat, which nearly all Sun Elves had some training in, regardless of how much, and which most were eager to finish as quickly as possible once engaged. Now for the culture. Unlike the other elves, Sun Elves organized their society along firm and hierarchical traditions. Communities were typically run by members of esteemed nobility, some of whom could trace their ancestry all the way back to the First Crown War. There was a difference, however, between Sun Elven and human monarchy. So, where a human king typically accumulated influence through the ownership of land or command of soldiers, a Sun Elf noble commanded authority through the prestige of their family name, or just the raw magical power they held at their behest. A power they often demonstrated through the grandeur of their home. Sun Elves were less motivated to become adventurers than their wandering Moon Elven brethren, and preferred, for the most part, to keep to themselves. Those who were driven into a world to forge a path among the other races often did so as spies or scouts on the behalf of their people, or they would, got something in my throat. Or they would be vigilant watchmen against possible threats to their civilization. Others might be drawn to adventure by desire to explore ancient ruins of the world and learn from their secrets, bringing back the secrets of magic and power to their people. Most Sun Elves who turned to adventure did so as wizards, fighters, or something in between, like probably an arcane archer or something. Sun Elves generally lacked the desire to be versatile, so they most likely would have only gone in one class. But many Sun Elves also became bards. They were more of a rare sort, though, given to the more solemn songs of the ancients than joyous ballads like the Moon Elves create. But some were also clerics or paladins. They had more to their number of either than any other elven race. Sun Elves continued their career away from... Sun Elves who continued their career away from Sun Elven homes often went on to become masters of the arcane, such as arcane devotees, archmages, or lore masters. Sun Elves also favoured the paths of the arcane archer or blade singer, though to a lesser extent. Alright. So then we've got art and leisure. The Sun Elven qualities of patience and haughtiness often both demonstrated themselves in Sun Elf art. Sun Elven architecture, while undeniably beautiful in most cases, was often flashier than what other elves commonly built. A quality in part due to the fact that Sun Elves would accept nothing short of perfection, working tirelessly in their art to constantly raise the aesthetic bar. Sun Elf art, poetry, and music, all these demonstrated a regal attitude that had come to be closely associated with Sun Elven taste. To a Sun Elf, the grander a piece the better, with heroic ballads or tragic epics the preferred form of literature against the subrace. Sun Elves loved and enjoyed learning, perhaps even to a point that others might find surprising. Nearly all Sun Elves had access to a private store of knowledge, and no self-respecting Sun Elf lacked the capacity to read or write. Contrastly, many Sun Elves preferred clothing that was at once beautiful and understated, with subdued colours like blue or green favoured over bolder hues. Most Sun Elves decorated themselves with gold or mithril embroidery, in subtle patterns woven into the design of their clothes, and which added to the beauty of the clothing without seeming flashy or showy. Similarly, most Sun Elven jewellery was simple in appearance, but in fact exquisitely complex in both construction and design. Unlike the other Telquasi subraces, few Sun Elves enjoyed keeping pets. Though they naturally retained a fondness of nature itself. Sun Elves were rarely disturbed by wild animals, more often welcoming them should they pass within the city's limits. For companionship or servitude, however, Sun Elves were more likely to summon powerful elementals or immortals than natural creatures. Those who did keep personal pets will most likely use them as mounts, though often exotic ones such as Pegasi or giant eagles. For magic and religion, Sun Elves had a deep respect for magic, particularly of the high magic variety, which often would tend towards elven high magic, and they often concentrated their studies on its nature and use. Sun Elves had an advantage in this over other races. Even for elves, as a collective group, Sun Elves have a greater wealth of lore than any other. A collection accumulated over millennia, which I think is a little bit surprising because Moon Elves tend to be the more adventurous and often go into the ruins a bit more than Sun Elves. You would kind of think that they would be able to have a little bit more lore due to how much travelling a Moon Elf does. But with the proper training, Sun Elven mages might be capable of warding an entire city or changing the landscape of a small region overnight. Such power was often used hesitantly and without restraint. An example would be the destruction of Mithranor and other disasters, reminding Sun Elves that with great power came the need to restrain oneself. As a result, Sun Elves, as much out of an urge to prevent magical disasters as out of possessive arrogance, were hesitant to use their abilities learnt as mages outside of their domains. Although Sun Elves favoured the arcane, they did not neglect the divine, and most Sun Elves were deeply religious. This piety was often entwined with nationalism, as Sun Elves firmly believed they were chosen people of the Seldarine, the elven pantheon of gods. As in most other things, Sun Elves left no detail incomplete, and the Sun Elven ceremonies devoted to the Saldrine were often long and drawn out. For other races, these rites might even seem dull, with Sun Elves neglecting any hint of joy or merriness, which they believed disrespectful to the gods in their worship. Sun Elves generally paid heed to all the Saldrine, though some did not consider. God, I don't know how to say this goddess's name. Enkared to this amongst the Saldrine, which that goddess is obviously the one I talked about in the other Moon Elf video of Aedri, Faina, Sahani, Moonbow, and Hanali Seli is when they combine as to become one goddess in the creation story of the elves, which I will do an evaluation for after I've done the sub-races of elves. Most of the Sun Elves found Corellin Larethium most worthy of their veneration. Sorry. To the common Sun Elf, Corellin reflected the best qualities of a leader: wisdom, generosity, and firm leadership. Priests of the god often had a high place in Sun Elven society, advising nobility and aiding the military. Another god who commonly drew Sun Elf attention was Libellus Enerith, who Sun Elves saw as a leader and protector of their culture in particular, as well as the keeper of wisdom and knowledge that the Sun Elves valued so highly. Now, the Sun Elf relations with other races. So obviously, Sun Elves being arrogant, they had a very high opinion of themselves, even in comparison with the Moon Elves. And as a race, they thought they were the chosen people of Corellin himself, selected to protect the traditions and culture of the Tel Quasia. In spite of this, however, most Sun Elves did feel an attraction for their brethren, the Moon Elves, but in particular, although in a way they could often seem patronising. Sun Elves generally saw Moon Elves as immature and irresponsible children who, though amusing, needed to be constantly reminded of their duties to the greater Tel Quasia family. Interesting, Sun Elves were often on better terms with the Sylvan Elves, whose reverence for nature and stern manner was admired by the Sun Elves. Of the second branch in the Tel Quasia family, Sun Elves were most fond of Wood Elves, though the sparse settlement of both peoples meant that direct contact was a rare thing. Sun Elves were less amiable towards the Wild Elves, whom they felt were in need of civilizing of all the Tel Quasia. However, Sun Elves viewed the aquatic elves the most positively, seeing them as their equals and partners in spreading Tel Quasia culture across Toril. Sun Elven opinions on races outside of Tel Quasia were far more strained. They could be incredibly prejudiced to the point of some even refusing to aid a dying human if it mildly inconvenienced them. Many Sun Elves objected to speaking in any language other than Elven, or in speaking with members of other races at all. These prejudices were partially rooted in past wrongs done by humans onto Sun Elves, though in truth they often only serve to heighten present tensions. Of all the races in the world, however, the one that Sun Elves held the most open hatred for were the Drow, the Dark Elves otherwise. Sun Elves, like many elves, viewed the Drow as a blasphemy incarnate and made a policy of killing any Drow they might meet on sight. So deep was his contempt for the Drow that ruins of an attempted Drow expansion into the realms of Comanthor were one of the primary reasons for the eventual return of the Sun Elves to the ancient kingdom in 1374 by Dale reckoning. Compared to Moon Elves, Sun Elves were relatively uncommon, though their numbers in the mainland Faerun grew during the era of upheaval. Now, for the history. Sun Elves migrated to Abatoril around the same time as the Moon Elves, making them among the last elves to appear on the world. Although less numerous than the Moon Elves, Sun Elves settled into the New World more easily, forming the nations of Avandar and Othrira. Of the two, Avandar would become the most powerful, blossoming under the rule of House Vaishan. However, this prosperity would come at a cost, and Avandar's blatant aggression towards other cultures were one of the main causes of the Crown Wars, which was basically wars between the Elven kingdoms. which would eventually result in the nation's obliteration. As a result, Sun Elves turned inwards, becoming less expansionist and more reclusive. Among the greatest nations founded by the Sun Elves was Comanthor, centered around the city of Mithranor, which the subway race would found in negative 3983 by Dale reckoning. Built on the principles of compassion and responsible use of magic, Comanthor was among the most powerful empires of its day. Eclipsed in power only briefly by the human empire of Netheril. Defending it were the crown coronals, an order of soul mages that kept the power of the neighboring humans checked for centuries. Probably especially Netheril, since they often... Well, I'll do one on Netheril once we get to the humans, but Netheril was actually a very, very powerful empire. It was a very powerful human empire of magic. I really can't wait to discuss Netheril. It's one of my favorite subjects of Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, it was during this period that Comanthor first welcomed humans into its territory, which they would sign the Dallas Compact and raised the standing stone, which still mark the year zero in the commonly used Dale reckoning dating system. However, Comanthor will not last, done in both by the growing power of humanity as well as an overabundance of magic. In spite of the nation's attempts at restraint in the Year of Doom, the thin veil between the Prime and the Fiendish Plains was broken, resulting in the invasion of Comanthor by a horde of fiends. Ultimately, Mithranor fell, and the Sun Elves took to the already progressing retreat in greater numbers than ever before, resulting in the distant Isle of Evermeet, the last major Sun Elven civilization. The second largest settlement composed to the Moon Elven dominated city of Everesca. During the era of upheaval, however, the Sun Elves made a slow but gradual comeback. The retreat, which had gone on for millennia, came to its conclusion, and many Sun Elves began the return to Faerun. In the Year of Lightning Storms, this will accumulate in the reclaiming of Mithranor, an event which would lead itself to the blossoming once again of the great Sun Elven nation. Homelands would be Sun Elves have historically been rare in Faerun. The majority have departed the continent for Evermeet after the fall of Mithranor. However, isolated communities remain strewn throughout the land, with the largest clumps concentrated in the north, the Western Heartlands, or the Moon Elven city of Everesca. However, as of 1479 by Dale reckoning, Sun Elves were far more plentiful than they once were, and the city of Mithranor once again has a sizable portion. That is... Oh, wait. I'll just say this quickly. The notable Sun Elven houses are obviously House Vishin, House Erithiel, and House Elorothi. Some of these elven names I have trouble pronouncing. But that is all for the Sun Elven entry. So we'll go... The next archive we will look through is the Wood Elves. But that is all for today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, a comment, or subscribe. Also, 99% of you are only about to subscribe, so if you can subscribe, that'll be great. But yeah, if you want more of these videos, well, I'll be posting more either way, because I just love Dungeons & Dragons. Let me know, even if you guys want to let me know, what other Elven topics you want me to do. I plan on trying to do the sub-races first, and then move on to the topics. If there's a specific Elven topic you want me to go through first more than others, let me know in the comments, and I'll do that one. I'll do whatever is most popular. So without further ado, thank you all for watching. If you liked, once again, please subscribe, comment, and leave a like. And I'll see you all in the next video. This archive is now closed. Thank you for watching.